Coming up, after the American Waterloo, who's profiting from our fall?
China has perfect stability. It's the model for the world.
China is emerging as the global leader.
That's why she feels like he really needs to hurry up.
At least that's what they want you to think.
Everything that comes out of China, it's either greatly exaggerated or it's an out-and-out lie.
Can anything stop this new empire?
They've created a demographic trap, and they're falling into it.
On today's 700 Club. Welcome to the 700 Club. President Trump made history yesterday. He's now the first U.S. president to be impeached twice. And this time around, 10 Republicans in the House voted for his impeachment.
The Senate trial will take place after President Trump is out of office. So why are Democrats demanding impeachment when the president has just days remaining in office? CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson explains.
For lawmakers trying to impeach Trump days before he leaves the White House, the goal is not just to remove him from office, but to stop him from ever becoming president again.
He must go. He is a clear and present danger to the nation that we all love.
The single article of impeachment charges President Trump with engaging in high crimes and misdemeanors by inciting violence against the government of the United States.
They were domestic terrorists, and justice must prevail. But they did not appear out of a vacuum. They were sent here by the president with words such as a cry to fight like hell.
The vote took place with National Guard troops protecting the Capitol and the House chamber itself. 10 Republicans joined every House Democrat voting in favor of impeachment, while the majority of House Republicans argued this.
A vote to impeach would further divide this nation. A vote to impeach will further fan the flames of partisan division.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy believes the president should be censured for his role in the Capitol attack, not impeached.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters. He should have immediately denounced the mob when he saw what was unfolding.
Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace says both sides share in the blame for the unrest around the country.
Republicans and Democrats need to acknowledge this is not the first day of violence we've seen. We've seen violence across our country for the last 9 months. And we need to recognize, number one, that our words have consequences, that there is violence on both sides of the aisle. We've contributed to it. We need to take responsibility for our words and our actions. We need to acknowledge there is a problem, take responsibility for it, and stop being part of the problem and start being part of the solution.
Following the historic vote on impeachment, Trump called for no violence, vandalism, or lawbreaking as he prepares to leave office.
Now I am asking everyone who has ever believed in our agenda to be thinking of ways to ease tensions, calm tempers, and help to promote peace in our country.
And President-elect Joe Biden released a statement saying he hopes that Senate leadership will find a way to deal with their constitutional responsibilities on impeachment while also working on the other urgent business. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell will not reconvene the Senate until January 19th, ensuring a Senate impeachment trial would not begin until the first weeks of Biden's presidency. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Well, CBN's political analyst David Brody joins us now. David, tell us about Mitch McConnell. He's put out a quote, that he's not made a final decision on how I will vote. So we're looking at an impeachment trial probably starting this month. But what do you make of his quote?
Well, I think it's code for the dam is loose. In other words, the dam is broken because it appears that if Mitch McConnell is not committing one way or the other at this point, I think you can read into that that he may indeed himself vote to convict. And if that's the case, like I say, the dam has then been broken loose because that gives cover for a lot of other Republicans in the Senate to do the same. So I think it's going to be iffy and dicey, but close, whether or not there can be 17 Republican senators to convict this president. But Gordon, it kind of gets to a larger issue. And you can bring some constitutional law professors on to talk about it. I'm not one. I don't even play one on television. But I can tell you this, that it may not even get to a Senate trial. I mean, there's a constitutionality issue, whether or not you can convict a president after he leaves office. He's not a sitting officer. I talked to Alan Dershowitz the other day, a liberal Harvard professor. You know him. Everybody knows him in the country. He told me, no, you can't do it. It's unconstitutional. And there's others that say it is. And so there's going to be debate about the impeachment clause of the Constitution. And so I think before it even gets to a Senate trial, I think we're going to the U.S. Supreme Court about this sometime either in January or February.
Well, we're into uncharted territory, and the uncharted territory is the 14th Amendment. How is the 14th Amendment enforced against a sitting president? It's unprecedented to think that a sitting president would incite an insurrection. That is brand new territory for us, and that's the claim here. So how are they going to deal with that as an issue? And I think that's the end game here, is to try to make sure under the 14th Amendment, President Trump can never hold a federal office again. I think that's what they're trying to do.
Well, I think you're right, Gordon. I think it comes back to the Brandenburg test. Back in the late 1950s, the Supreme Court ruled about First Amendment free speech, and that unless you are specifically directing a rebellion or a rebellion is likely to come out of your speech, then you can pretty much say whatever you want. That's not me saying that. That's Alan Dershowitz and many other professors who I was talking to. So, I think the Brandenburg test from 1957 is going to come up. I don't think there's any question about it. And then you go to some of the facts on the ground. I mean, this idea that the president incited a rebellion, there is a very solid case to make under the Brandenburg test that it didn't come close to that. For example, you read in the media reports, and, Gordon, you always talk about it, and it's true, right? We're trying to provide the truth here at CBN News. Well, here's the truth. The media specifically says Donald Trump called for folks to come to Washington and march. He never did that. Never did that. He said there's going to be a march and a rally in Washington, D.C. It's going to be wild, is what he said. The march was already planned. It was for Women for America First. So this was not a Trump campaign event. He didn't call for it on the National Mall or the White House ellipse, number one. Number two, the riot at the Capitol had already started taking place. Wait for it, Gordon. Before Donald Trump even started finishing his remarks, about 20, 25 minutes before he finished, they were already storming the Capitol, and Donald Trump was still speaking. Finally, obviously, as we've talked about, he said peacefully and patriotically march to the Capitol. So this idea, and once again, let me be clear, and we always have to do the disclaimer. What happened at the storming of the Capitol was horrible and terrible, and no one wanted to see that. But the question comes from a constitutional standpoint, whether or not this will hold up in a court of law as it relates to the trial, the Senate trial, because the impeachment's a done deal at this point.
Well, let's look at the political ramifications, and I think one of the things is, McConnell's sending a clear message to other Republicans that he's undecided, so that he's already moving away from the president. What about cancel culture here? And if the president is successfully impeached and the 14th Amendment comes into play, all of those things, is that now cover for big tech to continue to censor conservative voices?
I think 100%, Gordon. And I think that's the real threat here. Everybody talks about Trump and impeachment and politics and what does it mean for the future of the Republican Party? All very important questions. But there is a much more underlying issue here, which is exactly what you said. Big tech censorship. That's where this is going. I can tell you, I had Samuel Rodriguez reach out to me over the weekend. He's one of the president's advisors, faith advisors. We know him. We've had him on the 700 Club before. And he said, David, this is out of control. He called me on a Saturday night over the weekend. He said what they're doing to his organization and some of the folks around him in the Hispanic community because they support Trump, whether it be deplatforming or losing followers or warning labels, all of it. This is where we're going. And it's not just about politics. It's about folks that are faithful. And not only that, but, we have to understand here, if you are a Trump supporter, you will be considered an enabler of all of this, according to big tech. And that's the real danger. I can tell you this. I spoke to Jason Miller, a senior advisor to the, well, no longer, I guess, Trump campaign. But he talked to me about what happened to him. He was supposed to do a live shot at a place called Live Shot Studios in Washington, D.C. He showed up. They said, sorry, you can't come in. And he said, why can't I come in? He said, well, they said, you're on the list. He said, what do you mean I'm on the list? He said, well, apparently there's a COVID thing, and they've tried to make it a health situation. But there was no indication. Jason Miller hadn't had COVID, hadn't been around anybody with COVID. I mean, there was nothing about from a health perspective. He was on a, quote, list, and that's the concern. I can tell you this, once again, back to Alan Dershowitz, because I had a whole hour conversation with him. He said, this isn't just McCarthyism coming. This is way far and above McCarthyism, what's about to unfold here in America.
Well, they're going to go after people's jobs, and they're going to go after people's ability to participate in the public square. So, here, is this going to handicap Biden? Does he recognize this? That, you know, just as same way Trump was handicapped by the Russian collusion, is the entire government going to be focused on a new Trump collusion claim and yet another attempt to impeach? And is that going to throw everything into turmoil and absolutely derail his administration before it even begins?
Well, I think it's going to hurt him a lot. The question then becomes, what parliamentary tricks, what do they have up their sleeve? The Democrats, they'll control the Senate. They can do a lot with 50 votes, and the retribution is coming, Gordon. The retribution is coming. So as much as Joe Biden's agenda may suffer a little bit, the truth of the matter is all bets are off on judges. The filibuster rule is gone. They might change the filibuster rule. Democrats might on legislative priorities. So if they go ahead through with some of this stuff, then it really doesn't matter what you, me, and the guy down the street thinks. The Democrats have control, and they can do what they want. You're going to have to look to people like Joe Manchin and some other centrist Democrats to figure it all out going forward. All
right. Well, thank you, David. Thank you for your analysis. And I called for it yesterday. I'll call for it again today. Please be in prayer for our nation. This is absolutely catastrophic. Our democracy is at stake. Our two-party system is at stake. Our freedom to express our opinion is at stake. There are a lot of ramifications from what happened and the horrible things that happened on January 6th, but it seems to be a cascading event. In other news, and this is an underline for the cascading event, America's capital is on virtual lockdown. We now have more troops in Washington, D.C. than in Afghanistan and Iraq combined. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Such a strong show of force here in Washington, D.C., Gordon. With less than a week to go before President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration, the nation's capital and state capitals around the nation are on high alert. Thousands of National Guard troops are already stationed at the U.S. Capitol, the Supreme Court, and along Pennsylvania Avenue. In the basement of the Capitol building, soldiers sleeping on the floor between shifts, a sight not seen since the Civil War. Up to 20,000 troops are expected to be standing guard on Inauguration Day. The FBI and Homeland Security Department reportedly are most concerned about violence in the electoral battleground states, including Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. While certain conspiracy theories helped fuel last week's Capitol riot, some continue to spread, even in the church. As CBN's Heather Sells reports, now key pastors are stepping up to condemn them as dangerous lies.
Conspiracy theories have sprouted throughout the years, reaching prominence once again in 2020. That growth includes various churches leading some prominent pastors to speak out and urge their followers to think carefully about what they believe and what they post.
On Tuesday, Pastor Tony Suarez, one of President Trump's faith advisors, said it's gone far enough. He called out specific conspiracy theories and asked those spreading them to apologize.
In the last week specifically, there are, and again, I don't want to put a fake number on it, but untold numbers of shares of text messages, phone calls, YouTube videos, or different kinds of videos claiming everything from martial law to the Insurrection Act being enacted, that President Trump is hiding in a military base in Texas.
Last week, Southern Baptist spokesman Russell Moore told pastors believers shouldn't be surprised by the growth of the misinformation.
It's a good business model to keep people in a constant state of outrage, and also to frame every single issue and every single moment as an apocalyptic moment.
Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger is pushing Christian leaders who may have contributed to this spread to apologize. Kinzinger initially included claims of a stolen election as a conspiracy. Suarez said he supported recounts and has no problem with pastors who did as well. Now he says it's time to accept the election results.
And at some point, we have to accept the outcome, the results, and move on. And that's difficult for some.
As Wheaton College's Ed Stetzer points out, Jesus is the truth. And when believers promote falsehoods or information without validation, they discredit the gospel.
When we're gullible and easily fooled, when we're the people who are posting conspiracies and the next thing saying, oh, the resurrection's true, all those conspiracies are too, it undermines our witness, it causes people to question our credibility.
Dr. Moore told pastors it's easy to crave controversy and combat, but we're called to be reasonable and avoid being driven by fear. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Gordon, what we hear over and over again is when you push misinformation, it really undermines credibility in our witness.
Well, it absolutely does. And you look at the number of conspiracy theories that were represented by banners at that horrible thing that happened at the Capitol. You look at the various banners and whether it was Proud Boys or Confederate battle flags or the Don't Tread on Me, that famous New Hampshire flag. But it's all become part of this sort of bizarre alt-right coalition that it just seems odd. But on top of that, you have Q flags for QAnon. You have these silly frog flags, which is some kind of new joke religion. Where are we going? The thing that really occurred to my spirit back on the 6th was, who has bewitched you? Why would you try to have the violent overthrow? What were you possibly trying to accomplish by invading the Congress as they're sitting and deliberating, accepting the election of a new president? What was your end game? What were you trying to do? Whatever that was, you were living in some kind of fantasy land that if you thought it was going to last or thought it was going to be successful. We've come to a real place and a real turning point in our culture. And we have to recognize that these false theories, all of this false stuff that's going mainstream in our political thought and in our political act. How much can you blame on our isolation? How much can you blame on COVID? How much can you blame on the violence that's plaguing all of our cities and now our nation's capital? You can blame a lot on that, but how we think and are we being objective and truly analyzing things? I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you think there's some cabal of pedophile sex traffickers in control of our government, if you please get the facts straight. That is complete fantasy, and we need to call it for what it is. Terry?
Well, still ahead, driving 75 miles an hour down a racetrack at the age of 8. Adrian was an adrenaline junkie from the get-go. So what happened to her in the fast lane? That's coming up. Plus, China is having a field day mocking the riot at our nation's capital. What are they hiding about their own country that could be the downfall of their quest for world domination?
Your news channel, your shows, the stories you care about. Anytime you want, anywhere you want. Download the CBN News app today.
Hi, this is Pat Robertson. We don't know what the future holds for different tech companies. but we always want to be able to share the good news through the media. So I want to invite you to watch our program on cbnfamily.com or download the CBN Family app. This way you can have direct access to the 700 Club and other specials from CBN, and you won't miss a thing. Now just click below to get more details and watch with us.
Tomorrow, 3 strikes.
That's all I used to think about. We're in hell.
And he's out.
And realize, hey, I'm never going home. And I just...
Locked away for a low-level crime.
Life for nothing.
Now meet the crusader who set him free.
She said, Tate, you going home.
And then, life flashed before his eyes. What did he see on the other side? On tomorrow's 700 Club.
Stay connected with CBN News all day across our platforms.
Well, our enemies are watching as America undergoes historic political upheaval. China is mocking our internal unrest in its pursuit of world domination, but China has an even greater problem, and it may be its own worst enemy. Dale Hurd explains.
To China, what happened at the Capitol last week was a propaganda gift. The communist government-owned Global Times newspaper called it an iconic humiliation. The madness of the Capitol has dragged America to its Waterloo. Chinese commentators have had a field day mocking what they call U.S. hypocrisy for supporting the sometimes violent pro-democracy demonstrations in Hong Kong. Meanwhile, China has been busy trying to show the world that it offers a better, more stable and prosperous way, and that its economy has recovered from coronavirus while other nations are still stuck in lockdowns. Last week, a New York Times writer even suggested China's system is better than ours, saying citizens of China don't have freedom of speech, but they have the freedom to move around and lead a normal day-to-day life. In a pandemic year, many of the world's people would envy this most basic form of freedom. Michael Waller, an expert on propaganda and psychological warfare at the Center for Security Policy, says this has been the public relations goal of the Chinese government since it first began to be blamed for COVID-19.
Right now, Xi Jinping is doing everything right. Right now, China has perfect stability. It's the model for the world. And by the way, look at how bad the United States is.
But as it tries to overtake the United States and become the most powerful nation on earth, China has become its own worst enemy. Despite images like these making it look like everything has returned to normal, China has not beaten coronavirus. A few days ago, it had to seal off an entire city of 11 million people and order mass testing. Longtime China expert Stephen Mosier.
I think that everything that comes out of China, it's either greatly exaggerated or it's an out-and-out lie.
Shots like these are supposed to help you forget that China is one of the most brutal dictatorships in modern times. Millions of Muslim Uyghurs have disappeared into Chinese internment camps, and Uyghur women have been subjected to forced abortions and sterilization. The Chinese embassy in Washington actually tweeted last week that this is good because women are no longer baby-making machines. But China's biggest obstacle to becoming the world's superpower is simply time. China is on track to be the first major economy that will grow old before it achieves widespread prosperity because of its disastrous one-child policy.
China has killed off a half of the last 2 generations. 400 million Chinese, unborn Chinese, were eliminated. They've created a demographic trap for themselves, and they're falling into it.
Because of aging, China will need to import foreign workers in 10 years. In 30 years, 1/3 of its population will be elderly. Chinese immigrant Helen Raleigh is the author of Backlash: How China's Aggression Has Backfired.
The aging population, that's a huge issue. That's why she feels like he really needs to hurry up.
In China's race against time, President Xi has accelerated Chinese territorial expansion, causing border disputes with most of its neighbors and managing to turn them against China.
She is the most aggressive. most assertive Chinese leaders since Chairman Mao. He's really a control freak and he's power hungry.
China has moved big into Africa, becoming the biggest trading partner with African nations, but is sabotaging its own efforts by angering Africans with its deep-seated racism toward blacks. In this Chinese video, African children were tricked into saying in Chinese, "I am a black monster and I have a low IQ." McDonald's had to apologize after a restaurant posted this sign saying no blacks allowed. And this commercial from Chinese TV portrays a laundry detergent so strong, it can wash away the skin color of a black man. Chinese economic statistics are so untrustworthy that investment firms often use satellite images to find out the true state of the economy.
No responsible economist or investment professionals will trust any official data out of China.
The economic numbers out of China are not a reflection of reality at all. The Chinese economy is in a recession. The recession is getting deeper as we speak.
Last year, at the 70th anniversary of the founding of China's communist government, President Xi said, "No force can stop China." But the Chinese government's own policies are doing a pretty good job. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Well, I've said for years that China has not yet had its revolution. Tiananmen Square was the first signs of it. And the more they crack down, the more they're actually going to fuel it. When China does have it, it's going to be explosive. It won't be peaceful. It will make the Cultural Revolution seem tame by comparison. Go back 100 years to Sun Yat-sen, the opportunity for China to be a democratic republic was clearly there. They still revere him as a hero. I hope that they're able to go back to his principles and say, yes, we can have democracy, we can have freedom of speech and of thought, and we can go forward. And it's my same prayer that America would realize, yes, we can have the same thing too. Democracies are fragile, but they are the best form of government. Terry?
Well, up next, meet a young entrepreneur who got carried away with his own success. What happens when a major deal backfires, he loses everything, and winds up living with mom and dad? He's going to tell you himself. That's coming up. Plus, COVID-19 hit first, and then a Cat 4 hurricane ripped this town apart. Residents had no water and no electricity. See who came to their rescue after this. Do you have questions about God? Call us. It's toll-free, 1-800-700-7000, or check out this link.
Well, as a young entrepreneur, Will Burke was making money hand over fist and then spending it freely as well. A major business deal went bad, and Will was forced to move back in with his parents. During the lowest time of his life, he found inspiration and encouragement. So what inspired him, and how did it lead to an incredible comeback? Take a look.
28-year-old Will Burke is a go-getter. In 2017, he started his own business selling electronics.
I've always kind of had this entrepreneurial itch. I actually got network connections with people who would buy electronics stateside and ship them internationally.
As a pastor's kid, Will knew he should be tithing. But the more he earned, the harder it became to tithe.
My priorities started slipping a little bit. I started not going to church as much, got a fancy apartment that I probably shouldn't have gotten. I stopped, tithing. I wasn't reading my Bible.
Then in late 2018, Will took out a loan to invest in a business deal with his main supplier. The deal went bad, and Will was left thousands of dollars in debt.
It was this really dark time in my life. I had to break the lease on my apartment. I had to move back in with my parents. That's not what you want to do when you're 27. I was pretty discouraged.
Will started doing freelance web design and decided to begin tithing from his small income.
I really put my nose to the grindstone. I was consistent with my tithing. I started making money again, and I'm like, this is great.
Plus, his former business associate returned his investment.
I took it as like a confirmation, as like, okay, like I've taken care of you, I've cleaned up after your mess.
Will spent the rest of 2019 working to pay off debt and saving to attend grad school. He took his first course online that fall and made plans to relocate to become a full-time student.
I was high stepping into 2020, man. I'm like, this is it. This is my year.
Then the night before the move, Will got sick.
I contracted COVID. And for the next like 10 days, 2 weeks, I was in constant pain, coughing.
While he was recovering, Will's bank account was hacked.
Didn't sleep at night. I'm in constant pain. I can't leave. I'm not talking to God. I was done. I was mad.
Will also stopped tithing. But there was one bright spot. During that time, Will's mom started turning on the 700 Club each morning.
It was such a adult encouragement, and I came to really enjoy it. It was a really healing experience for me.
Will decided to start giving again and became a CBN partner.
Seeing all of the things that CBN does through Operation Blessing, Orphans Promise, things that are close to my heart, like sustainable solutions for impoverished communities. What you're giving actually goes to these incredible, incredible causes. I was just like, I've got to be a part of this.
Over the next few months, Will's bank recouped 75% of his money. Will continued rebuilding his business while working on his degree online. Since then, he's recovered both physically and financially.
My business has exploded. I actually hired my first employee recently. I'm in a better position than I was before I knew what I was doing. And so it's impossible for me to not be grateful.
Now Will looks forward to the future. He also encourages others to trust God with their tithes.
You're giving that in anticipation that the Lord is going to multiply that in ways that you don't understand. God will do it for you too. You just have to trust in Him.
And God will do it for you too. You just have to trust Him. Faith is spelled R-I-S-K when you take a risk with God. But it's not a risk because you know that He stands by His word to perform it. Here's the promise. It's from Isaiah chapter 1. If you will only obey me and let me help you, then you will have plenty. For Will, you heard the story. Here he is. He's raking in money and he's spending money and he's living his way and he starts to forget God. And God warns us about that. He says, don't ever think that it was your own strength or energy. The power to get wealth, the ability to get wealth always comes from Him. So Will crashed. A lot of bad things happened to him. But then he said, okay, I'm going to try it God's way. And God restored to him. He will do that for you if you just follow the same principles. If you, in January 2021, want to say, I want to do it God's way, all you have to do is say, yes, I want to start giving. I'm going to start tithing. I'm going to make that a regular part of my life. This isn't an on-again, off-again thing. When you commit your way to the Lord, that's when the blessings happen. If you'd like to do that with the 700 Club, give us a call. 1-800-700-7000. Just say, yes, I want to join. How much is it? It's just $20 a month. That's 65 cents a day. Some of you can join at 700 Club Gold, $40 a month. And 1,000 Club, that's $1,000 a year. That breaks out to $84 a month. At whatever level, do it now. And when you call and pledge and say, I want to be a member, I want you to have this. It's our gift to you. It's my father's latest book. It's called I Have Walked with the Living God. And just like Will, Dad's made some mistakes along the way. And it's amazing how God has restored, how God has recovered, how God has continued to bless him, even in spite of the mistakes. It's a wonderful journey of faith where you can be encouraged in your own life. And you can say, okay, I can do this. I can follow him. I can obey him, and the blessings will come. I want you to have it at yours when you join. 1-800-700-7000. Terry?
Well, like a double punch to the gut. That's how Craig Fontenette described the pain of coping with the COVID pandemic and then being hit by a Cat 4 hurricane. All the residents of Lake Charles, Louisiana, were reeling in the aftermath of that storm. They were desperate for food and water until Operation Blessing came to their rescue.
The COVID-19 outbreak hit America hard. When Category 4 Hurricane Laura ripped through Louisiana, things went from bad to worse.
It's like a double punch. It's the old 1-2, you get the COVID, then you get the hurricane. And it was our year, I guess. And literally, the place looked like a bomb went off. Lake Charles people have lost just about everything, business too. So my heart go out to them and myself and my family.
Been no water. There's been no electricity now for days.
With no electricity for several weeks, everyone's perishable food went bad fast.
We had to stand in long lines to get food for COVID and everything. And then this hit, and it's terrible.
Pastor Jerry Snyder and his wife Hope partnered with Operation Blessing to host a food and supplies distribution at their church.
We're giving out fresh produce, we're giving out products that they need to clean, we're giving out food, trash bags, dog food, all the things that they need. One of our core values is that unity builds community, and that's what we're here as a church to do.
But when you have churches like this that step up their game to another level and help all these people, that's a blessing of God for this church to be doing this.
Thanks to the prayers and support of Operation Blessing donors, families in Lake Charles were able to get the food and supplies they needed to take their first steps toward recovery.
We are so blessed to be here as a church doing what Jesus would want us to do.
As y'all are a godsend, y'all are doing God's work.
It means a lot. It really does.
Thank you, Operation Blessing. Thank you, Home Depot. Thank you, every partner that sows, that gives, that cares. You absolutely are the heart of Jesus. I believe that, and we feel it right here in Southwest Louisiana and Christian Rome. We want you to know, thank you. We love you.
This is who we are as believers, isn't it? We all come together, and when one is in need, we all reach out with what we have to make a difference. This is really what 700 Club members do every day of the week, every week of the year. If you've joined the 700 Club, then I know you already know that your gifts on a regular basis are touching lives and making a difference. If you haven't joined, today's a great day to do that, because when you become a CBN partner, immediately you are touching other people's lives. It's 60 cents a day, 65 cents a day, $20 a month, and we welcome you to do that right now. Our line is even toll-free. It's so easy. You call 1-800-700-7000. Just say, I want to join the 700 Club. And then we have many club levels you can join at. A general membership is what I just spoke to you about with $20 a month. If you're already a 700 Club general member, go up to the 700 Club Gold level. That's a gift of $40 a month. Or consider the 1000 Club at $84 a month. You can see there we have numerous levels, but do something today so that you can reach out and touch people right at their point of need. It makes such a difference in their lives, and it'll make a difference in yours too. Listen, our way of saying thank you to you for doing any of those things is to send you the book Gordon just talked about. It's Pat's latest, I Have Walked with the Living God. Amazing stories of his life of faith and how God has met him at every turn in the road with wisdom and guidance and the power to stand in the middle of it. You want to read it. It'll build your faith. And when you call today, by the way, will you do it using Pledge Express? That's electronic monthly giving. Your bank does all the work. Saves us some money so we can put even more of your gift right into the lives of people in need. And our way of saying thank you for doing that is to send you Power for Life teachings. You'll get one every month. They'll be a blessing to you even as you're blessing someone else. So 1-800-700-7000. Just say, I want to join the 700 Club, and I'd like to do it using Pledge Express. Gordon?
Well, when you become a CBN partner, we'll also send you the latest audio version of I Have Walked with the Living God. It's read by actor Kevin Sorbo. You can listen to it at home or on the go on your computer, phone, smart TV, any favorite device you have. All you have to do is use the CBN Family app. Activate your streaming link when you join as a CBN partner today. Well, watery rice and a cube of sugar. That's all Perrin had to feed herself and her 2 children. This single mother was abandoned by her husband. She worked 12 hours a day and only made $5. Even worse, she lived in dread that her children would be taken away from her. But not anymore, thanks to CBN's Orphans Promise.
9-year-old Kai Pong and his sister live with their mom in Thailand. Every day, their diet consisted of 2 small servings of rice with a single cube of brown sugar. It's all their mom could afford.
I wondered why we did not eat anything else. I really wanted the fresh mango, but Mom said she did not have money for that.
Perrin worked to provide for her kids after her husband left them. She sewed patches onto traditional Thai clothing, often by candlelight. For 12 hours work, she earned $5. Perrin said she tried to set aside a little bit every week to buy the kids 1 egg and a pack of instant noodles, which they shared.
I worked extra hours to give them the treats. I felt so sorry for them.
Perrin also went into debt as the COVID pandemic significantly reduced her work.
I owed $67 to the lady I worked for. It was hard to get another job because I have to take my youngest daughter with me.
Perrin said she was afraid her children might be taken away from her since she could not provide for them.
I never wanted to lose my children. I said, God, please give me a business so I can take care of them.
When CBN's Orphans Promise learned about Perrin's situation, we set up a refreshment stand with fresh fruit and other ingredients so she could prepare smoothies and other drinks outside her home.
God sends me lots of customers every day. They say my smoothies taste good and come back for more.
Perrin began giving 10% of her income to her church and even saved enough to pay off her debts.
I gave because I love God. I want to give thanks to Him because He is a good God.
Perrin reports that her income is now 5 times what she earned sewing patches. She used some of that money to start a second business, buying and reselling fruits and vegetables.
It seemed impossible, but God answered my prayers to have my own business and to be free from debt. When I see my children having good meals, I thank God.
We eat good food now. I love mangoes the most. I hope our family is this happy forever.
Thank you for helping me and my children. God showed me His love through you.
That's what Orphans Promise does, and it does it through you. It's not just helping orphans, it's helping families stay together so that they can live in love, they can have a hope, they can have a future, they can have a hand up, not just a hand out, but a hand up so that they can be productive. They can have the dignity of earning their own income, being entrepreneurs, and it's a complete gospel. When you see people that you helped start tithing themselves, you understand how wonderful the message of the gospel can be. If you want to join with us and join in everything we're doing around the world, it's real simple. Just say, I want to be a member of the 700 Club. It's just $20 a month, 65 cents a day. So call us now and say, yes, I want to join. 1-800-700-7000. Now, when you call and join, make sure you ask for Pledge Express, electronic monthly giving. We can send as our gift to you, and you're a Pledge Express member, Power for Life monthly teaching CDs. There are 3 ways you can do it. You can ask for Pledge Express when you call 1-800-700-7000. You can go to cbn.com, and when you give monthly on the giving page, you automatically sign up for Pledge Express. We have something new where you can text to give, and you can text the letters CBN to 71777. Either way, do it now. 1-800-700-7000. Well, when you become a CBN partner, we'd like to thank you by sending you my father's latest book. It's called I Have Walked with a Living God, and it's already getting great reviews. Take a look.
Hear what people are saying about Pat Robertson's latest book.
It is phenomenal.
It's as good as any book I've ever read in my entire life.
Discover the principles that guided Pat's life. Get Pat Robertson's latest book when you become a CBN partner.
It's like having a one-on-one conversation with Pat. Cannot praise Pat enough for the book.
Call now, 1-800-700-7000, or go to cbn.com. These challenging times call for strength and faith.
You're going to be just fine, just fine.
You need the wisdom to manage new responsibilities.
Great job. And Callie, please write a sentence.
And the courage and favor to fulfill life's demands.
Let's go.
Get the insight and power you need to triumph from Pat Robertson's new book, I have walked with the living God. Pat shares his miraculous journey that will inspire you and grow your faith.
You can take one thing away from this book. It is this: get rid of the clutter in your life. Instead, spend your time in the presence of the Lord.
Learn how to overcome adversity and live in God's blessing. Get I Have Walked with the Living God today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to become a CBN partner. Call now.
Welcome back to Washington for this CBN News break. Twitter's CEO is defending his company's ban on President Trump. Jack Dorsey tweeted that he didn't celebrate the move, but added, quote, "I believe this was the right decision for Twitter," end quote, because of the harm he said the president's tweets might cause. Though he also admitted the move has set a dangerous precedent. Critics say Twitter has not removed many violent posts like #AssassinAteTrump and similar messages. Well, a global team of researchers arrived in Wuhan, China today, where the coronavirus pandemic was first detected. The team, sent by the World Health Organization, is carrying out an investigation into the origins of the virus amid uncertainty about whether China might try to prevent embarrassing discoveries. Beijing says it will support the WHO team. China's Communist Party, which has been hurt by complaints it let the virus spread, says the disease came from other countries, possibly on imported seafood, but scientists reject that. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com. Gordon and Terry will be back with more of the 700 Club right after this.
Do you want to know more about having a relationship with God? Call us at 1-800-700-7000.
Well, Adrienne was an adrenaline junkie, and life in the fast lane took its toll. Then, on the night of her daughter's 6th birthday, Adrienne was stopped in her tracks. Take a look.
Not many 8-year-olds were driving like 75 miles per hour down a racetrack.
Adrienne Richardson says she was an adrenaline junkie as a young girl. She spent her weekends racing cars with her parents.
I was basically raised at the racetrack. Me, my mom, and my dad, we traveled all over. And I think that's where I got a lot of my thrill seeking was in that lifestyle.
In high school, her passion changed from cars to boys.
They were pretty much like my God. If I was single at any point, I felt like I was unworthy to even live. Nothing was satisfying me. It's like I was on a search for something.
Eventually, she was drawn to drugs.
It was a weekend thing, and then it became more often.
A good student, Adrienne went on to get a nursing degree.
I graduated valedictorian of my nursing school class. I was married. We had a beautiful baby girl. We had the house. You know, we had it from the world's view. I was blessed, but there was something missing, just deep. My soul was just thirsty.
After the birth of her first child, she began to use opioids.
I got sent home from the hospital with a prescription of Percocet and postpartum depression, which did not mix.
A subsequent divorce sent her deeper into drug use.
I was a very cruel and self-absorbed person, very. It didn't matter what it took to get that fix. That's when things really spiraled. Opiates became my God at that point. We were in the middle of court custody battle along with the divorce. I wanted to be a mom. I just didn't know how. The night of my daughter's 6th birthday party, I left with a friend to go get high. And of course I lost track of time, and I got back and everyone was leaving. And I will never forget that night. I remember crying in the mirror that night, like literally staring at a stranger, like, who are you and how did you get here?
That night was a turning point for Adrienne.
From that night on, it was like there was a magnet just pulling me to God. And around the same time is when I heard the gospel through a Facebook video. You know, growing up, I had heard about that Jesus died for me. I never understood the significance of it. And I also heard about eternity. I heard about heaven and hell, that he has the power to set you free from addiction. And I was like, what? I cried out to God that night, a God that I didn't really know anything about. And I said, you know, I've heard you're good. I've heard you're real. I've heard you're good. So basically, like, show me. I said, I'm so tired of drug seeking day and night. Make me seek what you seek. I said, if you can know God, I want to know him. I woke up the next morning with a new heart.
Adrienne says God delivered her from her addiction.
Still to this day, I have not craved or desired another drug or drink since. I was craving righteousness. I was craving Jesus, and I was craving the Bible. When I heard the gospel in its fullness and just the explanation of why Jesus did what he did, it gripped my heart. But I don't think I ever got the concept that he's alive, that he didn't just die and he is after me. And that was like, who would want me?
Adrienne is a nurse again and co-parents her daughter with her ex-husband. She also has a burden to share the gospel with millennials.
I was like the woman at the well. I'm telling everybody. Like, I was an evangelist from that moment. I went straight to social media and told them everything. I was like, I'm a brand new person. I had an encounter with God. God is real. Jesus is good. He died for you. I mean, you couldn't shut me up. I found out people will not ask you about your faith, but people will ask you about your tattoos. It's because people are like, what's that mean? It is finished. And I'm like, let me tell you. God has really given me a heart for the next generation. God is after them with a passion, just like he was after me. We're wanting to revive, equip, and send the next generation back into their churches and the community and the world.
Maybe you're like Adrienne and you're wondering, who would ever want me? When you get to the end of yourself and you start looking at the mirror and going, I don't even want to be me. I don't even want me. What have I done? How big of a mess can I make? I've made a mess of my life. Adrienne found that when she prayed to a living God, she could get an answer. And it was a simple prayer. God, make me seek the things that you seek. You know, if you're real, if you're there, make me seek the things that you seek. It was that simple prayer that got an answer and transformed her life, where she says, I no longer desire drugs. I no longer desire these things I used to want. I don't want them anymore. What do I want? I want Jesus. I want righteousness. I want peace. I want joy in him. Now, if you want this, if you want a fresh start, if you want a new beginning, if you want for you all things to be made new, pray that same prayer. The Bible says that when you seek me with all of your heart, then you will find me. And God won't be words on a page. He won't be far off on some throne in heaven. He'll be right there with you when you seek me with all of your heart. Bow your head with me. Let's pray that same prayer, and you will get the same result. Jesus. Say his name. Say it out loud. Jesus. I've seen what you've done for others, and I want you to do that for me. Let me seek the things that you seek. Come into my heart. Forgive me of anything I've done wrong. Set me free, for I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. If you prayed, let us know. Call us, 1-800-700-7000. Here's a word from Psalms. We went through fire and through water, but you brought us out to rich fulfillment. God bless.
Hello, this is Pat Robertson. I've written a book called I Have Walked with the Living God. In its pages, I've shared many of the things God has spoken to me. At one time, the Lord told me, and I quote, Do not fear the future, for I am the future. I can tell you that when you step out into the future, you step out into the hands of a loving God whom you can trust not only for tomorrow, but forever.
In Pat's dynamic latest book, you'll learn how to receive favor, wisdom, and discernment, how to overcome obstacles, and live a life that is exhilarating and full of promise.
I think this book can help you live that kind of a life.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to receive your copy today.